What's up? Installment number 3 for the MNCAA season recaps 2023-2024. With us, first full season under his belt here under the banner, Lucas. How are we doing, buddy? Appreciate you joining in the late hours here.
Yeah, doing good. Tired for sure, but we're powering through, and we're a couple months now already removed from the season, which is just crazy. This off season's flying by, and October is going to be here before we know it, and I just can't wait.
It is very weird, and unlike most seasons, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, throughout the episode, but it feels like there's way more discussion around college hockey in the off season just because of all the activity with the transfer portal, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got the transfer portal, you got, like the conferences down in Naples, and some pretty big changes maybe coming to college hockey with NIL, with CHL players, all that fun stuff. So yeah, never a dull moment. Transfer portal's just closing up here this week as we're recording, and we'll kind of start seeing players, filtering out of there, and rosters getting set for next season. And yeah, just a fun time of year.
Well, let's touch on that last one there, CHL.
Yeah.
I'm always curious to hear, I think Bemidji is the prime team to ask, because I could see it going either direction. Are you for or against inclusion of CHL teams?
100% for. I think that's, with the state of college hockey right now, I think that's the one thing that could save some of the parity that we're all used to within college hockey. For a school like Bemidji State that recruits pretty heavily out of the Canadian junior leagues, opening up to the CHL would just be a great resource for Tom and his staff to get more talent up to Bemidji. I think with the transfer portal and everything else going on, it's going to be a struggle to attract talent and retain talent. And just opening up that player pool would prove so beneficial to a school like Bemidji, and honestly, ccha schools in general. I feel like, St. Thomas is probably the lone exception to that, really. But I think every other school would benefit quite a bit from CHL player eligibility.
And how much longer do you think St. Thomas is going to be part of the CCHA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's going to be at least the 5 years that they're banned from the postseason. But once that ban's up, who knows? I don't see the NCHC staying at 9 teams for very long. But then you also have a school like Augustana that's, trying to get into the Summit League. Is that a good fit for the NCHC as well? And then who knows? I mean, there's so much, conference realignment talk we could go down. Things could blow up pretty easily too. So, who knows what's going to go on. Bowling Green, there's been rumors circulating around them trying to get out of the CCHA. Miami wants to get out of the NCHC. So yeah, you could see a whole bunch of teams moving around here in the next couple of seasons, I feel like.
I mean, pretty soon it's just going to be 2 conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I always feel bad for the Alaska schools kind of getting orphaned in the last realignment. And, I would hate to see something like that happen again, where you see more of these smaller schools kind of get left off on their own. And program, everyone keeps talking about college expansion in college hockey. And I think I'm more worried about retraction than anything.
Yeah, the CHL wrinkle makes it interesting for me, where it's like, if you really are going to bring in that many guys that, age out of CHL and want to keep playing hockey, why not play college hockey? You got all of those Pac-12 teams that are now becoming Big Ten teams, that a lot of them have established club teams. It seems like a logical expansion opportunity, but like you said, there's already a lot of spots that can be filled that are being vacated in the CCHA from the transfer portal. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'm just fascinated to watch a lot of it unfold. But the transfer portal in general, we might as well. Let's hit it.
Sure.
What are your thoughts, just blanket statement on the transfer portal?
I mean, overall, the transfer portal, I think, is good for college athletes. I think it's something that you have to have. There's no reason a player should be locked into a 4-year agreement with the school, with all the coaching changes that can happen, and just false promises. Coaches can promise players certain playing time, and if they're not getting it, in the old system, they would still be stuck there or have to sit out a year if they wanted to leave. So overall, the transfer portal, I think, is a necessity within college sports. It sucks for teams like Bemidji State and smaller schools. The whole idea kind of behind it, or some of the positives I kept hearing were going to happen eventually would be you would see these players that weren't getting playing time at bigger schools transfer to smaller schools like Bemidji State or other CCHA schools and look for playing time there. And I really haven't seen that happen in too many instances. You've got a couple of examples, but the main benefactors so far from the transfer portal are definitely the blue blood programs and the bigger schools. So it would be nice. And honestly, I think that trend's going to get worse now that the fifth years are gone. I kind of think some of those fifth year players that were looking for new homes were going to the smaller schools, but now that you just have the 4 years of eligibility again, I don't think you're going to see as many, good players transferring from the bigger programs to the smaller ones anymore.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on the transfer portal being a necessity in instances where you get false promises, coaching change, you don't get the playing time. Like, that's fine. I just don't even know how to effectively begin drawing the line for, again, no ill will towards Eric Polkamp. Like, I get that it's like a great opportunity for him, but it just sucks when you have the right situation, you bring in a guy, give him a chance, he torches, and then says, see you later. Right. And I mean, I don't know, maybe Bemidji just can't let their guys go play for the World Junior team anymore. I don't know if that's a solution, but
yeah, I mean, I think part of that too was, pressure being put on Polkamp from his NHL team, from the San Jose. I feel like that weighed in pretty heavily on that decision. From his recruiting process, it sounded like there's really only two teams interested in him at the beginning. That was Bemidji State and Bowling Green. These bigger programs didn't really approach him until he had major success in the USHL. And then he still wanted to come to Bemidji even after that massive season he had in the USHL 2 years ago. So, good luck to him going forward. He's a hell of a player, and it's going to suck losing him. Definitely needs to work on his defensive game a little bit to succeed in the NCHC. But it's just an unfortunate situation for Bemidji State where you're able to land a top tier guy like that, and you just have no chance at keeping him, it seems like, after one season.
Well, what's the solution? So we're not changing anything with the transfer portal anytime soon. It's tough for a smaller school like Bemidji, right? Less funding, whatever. What can you do, or what would be your suggestion to them as to like things you can do to at least make it seem like a more desirable place to stay once someone's on campus?
Oh boy, have success at a national level. I feel like that's what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to build a winning program that can still get that national attention and play against the top tier teams at a tournament level. I mean, outside of that, just being in the conference you're in, it's tough. I mean, you're not facing the same level of competition as the bigger schools. It's harder to promise a kid development when when a kid like Polkamp comes in and puts up almost 30 points in his freshman year, it's just tough to, I really don't know what you can do to keep kids at this stage.
I'm actually wondering, and totally spitballing here in a tired stupor, but is there a world where, like, because players can leave whenever they want, right? Why not have scholarships have term, just like a contract, right? Like, hey, I'm offering you a 2-year scholarship, and you have to stay through those 2 years, barring a coaching change, something like you could probably write the language appropriately. And like, then the kids can kind of decide how long they want to commit, or maybe the coaches only want to give, a year or two commit and say, hey, earn it and I'll give you more scholarship, whatever. I'm probably missing some major holes, but it just came to me out of nowhere.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm guessing that would get shot down in the courts pretty quick. So just like everything else the NCAA tries to do, it's going to be a losing battle, I'm sure. They go down that route.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk then about the season that Bemidji just had. If you could just boil it down to a sentence or two, how would you characterize the 2023-2024 season?
It was a championship winning season. I mean, you won the MacNaughton Cup. It was filled with adversity from the start of the year with all the injuries you had to deal with. It was up and down. The first half of the season was such a struggle for the Beavers. It was, you started the season injured. You faced a very difficult non-conference schedule that you didn't have success in. You certainly had chances to pull off wins. You took Wisconsin to overtime. You took North Dakota to overtime. You took Minnesota Duluth to overtime, and you had chances to win all three of those games. You had third period leads in all three of those games. So, it was disappointing in the first half for sure, as you really dealt with injuries to key players. But then the second half of the season was some of the most fun hockey I've gotten to watch. I mean, you go on an 11-game heater to end the season, and you make it all the way to the conference championship game, and you come up just a little bit short in that game to go to the NCAA tournament. But yeah, I mean, it was such a fun ride at the end of the year, and it's going to be a season I definitely remember for a long time as a fan. So many good storylines with Kyle Loft coming out of nowhere. He's a fifth-year player that was a solid defensive defenseman for the first 4 years at Bemidji State. And suddenly this fifth year, he's toe dragging guys at the blue line and going behind the net and trying to pull off in between the leg passes, and puts up over 30 points and earns himself an AHL deal. I mean, there's just so many cool little storylines like that throughout the season. And, you had massive comeback wins against Michigan Tech when you were down 4-0 and score 6 unanswered. You had a 7-6 win against Mankato in which you trailed by 3 goals. So, I mean, the season as an overall was such a fun ride, but it's a little disappointing still that you just came up that one game short, but it's going to be a season that I definitely remember forever.
For sure. And as you talk about just falling short, are there guys you look at and say, I expected more from you, and it's not to blame, but you're part of the reason that we didn't quite get over that hump? Or what was this, just the level of ability that the team had?
The issue was you had so many injuries. So, I mean, you had guys in the first half of the season that were playing completely out of the role that you expected them to be in. I mean, you have guys playing on the second line like Reese Chiddington, who's a freshman out of the OJHL. And on the second line, yeah, he looked out of place. He was in his first, first 6 months as a college athlete. But once everyone got healthy and you put him on the fourth line where he really belongs, all of a sudden he's a 6-goal guy, or I think he had 10 points. I can't remember exactly his stats, but I mean, there's just so many guys like that, like, yeah, in the first half of the season, you can say they were disappointing, but they're being played completely out of a role that they should have been in. So, once this team got healthy, it was a lot more positives than anything. Yeah, I can't point to a single guy and say, yeah, that was a disappointing year for him. I think everyone actually pretty much exceeded what the expectations I had for him were.
Okay. Well, I love that. So then how do they build off of that? Like, is this something where you expect to see regression from these guys, or was this them really coming onto the scene and establishing themselves as college players?
It certainly seems like an establishing year. I mean, things with Bemidji State tend to be a little bit cyclical in terms of like just recruiting classes and success. And really, I thought the peak of this team would be next year. So for them to win a championship this last season was definitely unexpected. The issue that you're going to run into is you're losing 4 of your top 5 scorers going into next season now. So you're going to have to find ways to replace that production. But there's a whole bunch of guys that are right around that 15 to 20 point range that are going to be coming back next year. You have 3 fifth-year guys coming back next year. There's so much depth returning for this team that all you need is a couple of guys to step up and be the top scorers, and you shouldn't have any issue replicating the success from this season.
I mean, that's very good to hear. So then how do you see them shaping up just in the landscape of their own conference, right? Other teams, plenty are going to get better, plenty are going to get worse. We're going to have St. Thomas, who's just like you, right? Season on the flip side started great, got derailed by injuries. Like, where do you see the Beavers stacking up in a full season next year?
Yeah, right now I honestly do see it as a 2-team race between St. Thomas and Bemidji. When you look around the conference, I can't really point to a team and say they're going to be better next year. It seems like everyone's getting hit pretty hard by losses through the transfer portal or to graduation. I really don't see a team that's going to take a step forward all too much, which is kind of sad for the conference as a whole. But it's going to be kind of just, Bemidji should be expecting a top half finish for sure next season. And there's no reason they shouldn't be competing for a MacNaughton Cup come the end of the year.
Sure. And let's talk across the state then. Like Mankato, like you said, maybe not necessarily on paper getting notedly better. What difference does it make, though, that you're in year 2 of a new coach after a long regime led by Mike Hastings?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's definitely going to start bringing in his guys. I think he's still probably 1 or 2 years out from bringing in the big recruiting classes that he's got lined up. Minnesota State's not going to finish 4th again next year. They're going to be, or in 2 years, they're going to be competing again here in the near future. But I just don't see it quite happening yet next season. I mean, throughout the ccha, it's kind of the same story where it's like, yeah, these coaches have good recruiting classes coming in, but it doesn't really seem to be lining up next season for anyone.
Okay. So if it's not Bemidji and it's not St. Thomas, who's the team you're telling me is going to win the CCHA next year?
Boy, I would probably, this might sound ridiculous, but I think with Lake Superior State, it might actually be the 3rd best team in the conference.
Okay.
They had 11 freshmen this past season. They were all playing big minutes for them. And I think with a year, another year of development, those guys are going to be getting good. So they're a team that needs to kind of figure out some goaltending issues and defensive issues. But yeah, I could see Lake Superior State taking a big jump forward next season. I mean, they finished 7th in the conference, but when you look at the conference, 2nd through 7th was separated by like 6 points. So there's, no reason they couldn't take a pretty big jump up the standings too.
Okay. So what are you seeing coming in next year for Bemidji? Are there guys that are going to take a little bit more time to get their feet wet, or is there anyone that you see making an impact, even if it's the back half of year 1?
Yeah, Bemidji, like I said, Bemidji is returning a lot of depth for next season. We're really only losing, 4.5 key contributors, the half being Gavin Enright, who is the backup goaltender who saw a lot of playing time just with Matthias Scholl being injured in the first half. But you've got 2 guys coming in from the transfer portal. You got Carter Randclev, who is the leading scorer at Niagara a year ago. He's going to be a top 6 forward coming in. You've also got AJ McCauley, who's a left shot defenseman that was playing at Fairbanks and playing 20 minutes a game for them too. So, through the transfer portal, you're already replacing 2 of those 4 skater spots, it seems like. The kind of for the freshmen, there's a couple. We have Jackson Panzer, who was a North Dakota commit. North Dakota wanted him to go another year of juniors, and he ended up, decommitting and coming to Bemidji so he could play right away next year. So he's going to be a very talented forward for this team. You also have Isaac Perek, who is Zane Perek's brother. You're an NHL draft fan.
Heard of him?
Yep. He's a right shot defenseman coming in from the BCHL, where he was a top 5 scoring defenseman there. Bemidji State's only got 2 right shot defensemen on roster for next season. So I kind of expect him to be playing right away too. So yeah, but I mean, the bottom 6 forward spots are going to be really interesting because there's so many guys competing for ice time. There's going to be so much competition to get into the lineup, and that should elevate the play from everyone on those bottom 6 forward spots.
Okay. Now, if it comes down to Bemidji and St. Thomas, like you said, Bemidji comes out, do you see this being a team that can take another step or have a bigger impact in the true postseason, competing for, not necessarily saying they make a Frozen Four, but do you see them being friskier, or are they kind of on a similar level to what we saw this year?
Yeah, it'll be tough. I mean, I kind of see them at a similar level to this year, where it's going to be like just kind of a borderline tournament team. They're going to have more success out of conference for them to even have a shot at making the tournament as an at-large. So you're going to have to go through the CCHA playoffs most likely to get that spot. That out of conference schedule is just ridiculous when you're playing, North Dakota, Minnesota, St. Cloud, and Duluth again this season, all in home and home. So and Bemidji State's been notoriously bad at out of conference these past few years. So Yeah, I mean, the one thing that they're gonna have is, Matthias Scholl's returning for his senior year now. He was the CCHA goaltender of the year last season. He's gonna be key for this team to make any sort of postseason run. He's definitely a very good goaltender, and hopefully we see him take another step up here this offseason.
Okay, like that. Now I gotta put you on the spot with a couple of in-state questions. First one, I'll let you come at me because it's really, really hard for me to look at this Gophers roster for next year and not salivate. Talk me off the ledge. Why can they not be a Frozen Four team?
I think they can make the Frozen Four. I mean, they're definitely talented enough. I feel like they're going to choke at some point, but I'm not sure exactly when.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's so many good teams in the Big Ten too next year. I mean, you're going to have Michigan State right back up there. You're going to have Wisconsin again back up there. Michigan's always been a thorn in the side.
Elder statesmen of Wisconsin.
Yeah, they're getting older for sure, and they're definitely losing some of those young draft picks. It seems like to the transfer portal.
It's crazy, man. I knew that Hastings would like shift a little bit to his old ways. I didn't think it'd be after one season.
No, bringing in what Leskoski and I can't remember the other kid from RIT, but those two 25-year-old forwards from RIT, and yeah, it's going to be a big change.
Letting go of 3 or 4 like USNTDP kids that are all like top 2 round picks in the NHL draft. He's like, nah, you guys, you don't have the heart. You don't have your AARP card yet. Get out.
Yeah, he's got his formula and it's worked for him. So we'll see if he can do it at a big program like that. I'm not sure if it'll work or not.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. So now to Negative Street. Who's the worst Minnesota team next year?
Duluth, I think. I don't know if yeah, that's tough. I would say Duluth. I just don't see him taking a big jump up from last season. I feel like there's just a lot of question marks up and down that roster, and I'm not sure exactly how they're going to be. I think Mankato's probably a close second though, for sure.
Okay. So the one that hasn't been talked about at all, then St. Cloud, do you see them just being back? Nothing happened. They're just back to their old ways of probably being like a fringe top 10 team.
I see more as a fringe tournament team again. I don't really know if they'll crack the top 10 at all. I haven't really looked too much at what they've got coming in for next season. I know they've got what's the kid out of Roseau? Bufflin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know they've got a couple of big guys, but man, that's a tough one because St. Cloud's always been a thorn in the Bemidji State side, so I don't want to talk too much trash on them when they just kick our ass every time we play them. But yeah, it's such a tough conference for them to get through. I mean, they have to run a gauntlet every single season too to get even a sniff of the tournament.
Okay, this is fair. I'm trying to think here, looking just at the history of the program, because there's only one name that really stands out to me, and it's probably the obvious one to you too, but who are some of the deep cuts? Like, who are the players that you look back and you're like, these are my guys?
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, Matt Reed for sure, just because I was going to school with them at that point. Yep, exactly. Brad Hunt, obviously Minnesota Wild legend. Let's see who else we got here. In my time at school, it was definitely Jordan George, who I know is still playing over in Europe and had a couple of really good seasons. Zach Whitecloud, obviously too. I mean,
that's an easy one.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you think that Whitecloud would have that kind of an impact in the NHL?
I mean, yes and no, because you definitely could tell he was talented. Like, you could definitely see the skill throughout his 2 years at Bemidji State. And I know Tom has talked in the past too that the first time they saw him skate, they're like, yeah, he's not going to be here 4 years. Like, we know someone's going to pick this kid up. And I mean, he definitely worked his way through the AHL too. And yeah, he's such a good player for the Knights right now. It's so much fun to watch him. So, yeah, definitely a skilled kid. You could definitely tell he was going to go pro early, but I didn't think he would be making that big of an impact for a Stanley Cup championship team.
Yeah. And are you one of the people that just like hates Vegas's existence and it's like kind of hard for you to cheer for them, or do you just not care one way or the other about Vegas, so it's easy to jump on?
Oh no, they're pretty easy. I got my
There.
Vegas Knights jersey, White Cloud jersey right here, actually. So
No. Why couldn't you have just told me you had the jersey? You had to pull it out. You got the yellow one? Come on.
yeah, I love this one. This one's gorgeous.
Man, I'm so anti gold jersey for them. I think their black jersey is so much better, personally.
Really? I don't. I love that. I just love the way the thing shines on the ice. I think that's such a good look for them. It just fits their brand so well. I don't know.
It's the Notre Dame helmet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Okay, so are you a Vegas fan then in support of White Cloud, or really you're just like, no, I'm just cheering for White Cloud?
Just for White Cloud, really. I mean, when we get to playoff time and there's no teams in the playoffs that I really like, then sure, I'll root for them a little bit. But
I'm sure that never happens. No.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, with the Wild this year, it was just a disaster anyway. So it was one of those.
Let's end on that. What is your outlook for the Minnesota Wild? Is Bill Guerin going to right the ship, or is it another failed attempt at a new regime?
I'm such a Bill Guerin doubter. Like, I have no trust in him at all.
So talk me through it.
I mean, I'm sure he has a plan, and I know he's going. You know, the situation that he's been dealt is beyond ridiculous, like beyond difficult for anyone to get out of with the salary cap hell that they're in. But I just, the signings of Goudreau and of those older guys, that just puts so much doubt in my mind as to what the vision behind, what he was thinking is. Like, it's just at some point, I just want to see him play the kids. That's all I want. I just want to see the kids play, see what we got, let them go, let them have fun.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat as you. Not that I'm a doubter. Like, I've definitely lost some of the excitement for the reason you laid out, right? It's those signings. And it's not just that they signed them, right? It's that all three of them were signed before any play that season, all of them given pretty favorable deals. And I'm not saying, really, aside from Foligno, I don't think any of them were overpaid necessarily, but it's like, let the season play out. Let them play for it. You get to the deadline and you have no options to make moves. And now we're in the spot, like you said. Do I think that all of these kids are ready to play? Fuck no. But there's some that deserve a chance. And until you open up spots, they're not going to get that chance. And hey, maybe that's all just lining up so perfectly that as soon as the cap lifts, you're going to get some of those kids injected. You're going to be able to throw in one or two big swings from free agency or something. I don't know what will be the sign to you that it has officially failed. Like, is it just, hey, we get out of cap hell and we get 2 more seasons of like a first round playoff bounce? Do you have higher expectations, lower expectations? Is it Kaprizov walking? Like, what would be the final straw?
Yeah, it's just going to be the continued, fringe playoff team that makes that first round and gets bounced right away. Like, it's, if we see that continuing here over the next 4 or 5 seasons, like it's.
Oh, okay. So you're giving it a 4 or 5 year bandwidth though before you're officially like saying I'm out.
I think so. Like, officially, just because you have to.
That is responsible of you.
You just have to let him actually have this plan play out. Like, he's got a plan. It's. You got to get through all this cap hell. You got to be able to let them get, a couple of guys signed. And then after that, that's, I think, when he can actually make the decision on his future. But it's so tough just because you dealt them the shitty hand. And now you're telling them, do what you can and get us in the playoffs. But it's nearly impossible.
See, for me, it's 3 years. Yeah. This year, I have no expectations. It's fine. If they get bullied out, so be it. The next year is the buffer year. I expect them to take steps, especially with the cap space. Hopefully you inject some kids, but I'll even give that one a wash because it's going to be a pretty big shift in identity. Wallstedt's probably your 1A or 1B at that point. We don't know if Gustafson's still here. Fleury's not. No. We don't know what the Kaprizov situation is. There's a lot up in the air that he's going to have to work through. So I'm going to give him the grace of that. The following year, they need to either win the first round or be damn convincing against a good component and put up a good fight. I can live with that and give you 1 more year after, but short of that, I'm going to be pretty negative.
Yeah, I really just wish they had tanked this year. I just wanted them to
There was
lose.
a lot of tanking teams, man. It would have been real
It
tough.
would. That's true. It's tough when, yeah.
Like if they all out tank, they maybe move up like 3 spots.
That's true too. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm with you. I'm with you. But this year of all years, it was so bottom heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough just with this draft class too. Cause I mean, even if you move down a couple of spots, you're still kind of just throwing a dart at the wall. Cause I mean, everyone kind of in that next tier of players, I really don't know if there's much of a difference between, the 10th pick and the 15th pick by any means. I mean,
it depends on how the top 10 plays out. Cause I agree with you. Like in that range of players, not a big difference, but there's a couple of guys that if they happen to slip to a 9 or 10, like they're no shit grabs. And there is like a reasonable explanation for how that could happen. But barring that, I'm with you. Like I think there's really good players to be had in the teens. And I think that even at 13, like the Wild are going to get a guy, but going up a couple spots, like then you're really in contention to get guys like a Zane Parekh. Maybe you get lucky and Zeev Boyum falls. Like there's some interesting names there, but again, at 13, like people are talking about Michael Brandsegg-Nygård. Then there's Cole Eisman, who was originally going to be second overall, like no questions asked. And now it's like, he's probably somewhere between like 8 and 16 and no one really knows which.
Yeah, give me the Norwegian kid. I love Brandsegg-Nygård. Watched a lot of them play in the World Juniors just because Bemidji State had a kid on that team too. Just loved his game. Love everything about it. So much fun. Been watching him at the World Championships too, and yeah, he's going to be a stud.
The discourse between Yzerman versus Brandsegg-Nygård is going to be crazy because they could not be more polar opposite guys. One is all ceiling, no floor, and the other is like, dude, Brandsegg-Nygård is basically exactly what he's going to be. He does not have much room to grow. Like you look at him and he is what he is, but what he is a fantastic middle 6 option.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting to see their out that they go. I mean, they obviously got to go best player available at that spot and whoever you have highest on your draft board. But
I think Charlie Strammel's the move.
Yeah, right. God, I love Strammel.
I feel bad for him, dude. Like, no one deserves to get shit on like he did for that pick. I understand some of the outrage. Yes, shout out Alex Micheletti. I know you're tuning in, and I don't believe that you have any affinity for a guy named Gabe Perreault. I don't think I've seen you ever mention him. But I get the pick, and it doesn't look great because of like how he was treated, given the injury, then playing under Hastings and not like having
playing fourth line minutes.
Card, I'm excited to see what he can do. Fresh start, a coach he's familiar with, get out of the limelight. This is the year, though. Like, there's no more excuses. If he can't figure it out this year, I'm understanding of fans wanting to panic and kind of like go full send on anger. But give the kid a chance. There's so many picks like that happen, and oh, weird, we'll turn back in 5 years and people are going to be like, I always knew Strammel was going to be good. And it's like, shut your dirty mouth.
Yeah. I mean, going and playing for Nightingale is such a huge move for him. I think that's worked out so well for guys like Isaac Howard and
you did okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, like you said, it'll be interesting to see what he does at Michigan State, but that team's going to be stacked again. And he's definitely going to get some pretty good minutes there and play with some pretty good players too. So, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he develops because the Wild definitely need a center. Just any center at this point would be nice.
I think it's been about 24 years that they've needed a center. I don't know. I mean, the final thing. What do you think of Mikko Koivu?
I love Mikko.
Is he the like icon of this franchise that everyone says?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of sad that that's who we think of as the icon in the Wild, but I definitely think he is. I mean, he was captain for however many 2 decades or whatever it was. So yeah, I mean, when I think of the Minnesota Wild through the time that I was in high school and in college, he's the guy.
And you're a fan of 9 being in the rafters next to 1?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Let me make sure you heard all of that. You're a fan of it being up next to 1. Do you like the one banner?
I don't hate it. It's fine.
I'm so opposed to it. And I don't, that can be old man screaming at clouds. I don't care.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that they retired a jersey number in honor of the fans. I'm so mad. I was so excited when they draft, Jesper Wallstedt, and I thought he was going to be number 1, and he was going to have them make a tough decision about, oh shit, do we have to take this banner down? But no, his number's 30. God damn it.
Well, you don't have any other banners to hang up there, so you might as well hang up the number 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We need another banner to replace it, I suppose. But see, that's what Koivu could have been. Just raise it up and put it right in front of the 1.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can't wait for 97 to be up there one day. So
you're confident he's going to be signing another ticket here?
I'm confident. Yeah, I think they'll get it done. I think he likes it here. So I think once, they'll have to might have to bring Struck for him, but and pay him. But yeah,
I mean, you're gonna have to.
Yeah,
him and Faber are both getting big boy bucks.
Hey, they both deserve it. I mean, they're going to be the future of this franchise, so they need it.
Oh, I will. You could tell me whatever number. I'm not going to bat an eye for either of them. So do what you need to do, Billy. Especially since you're going to have some money to play with.
Hopefully.
But perfect. Well, appreciate it. Again, everyone, check out Lucas's work. Go ahead and just pump too. I know you've got several outlets and you're doing everything Beavers throughout the season. Where can people follow you and what should they be looking out for, whether it's start of next season or maybe anything you have this summer?
Yeah, follow me at Beav Territory or Beaver Territory on Twitter or X. My Substack is beaverterritory.substack.com. There you can find all of my series previews, all of my recruiting information. I have all the list for all of Bemidji State's commits on the men's and women's side. You can also follow me on Facebook. Otherwise this off season, I'm probably just going to do a lot of shit posting about college hockey. So, enjoy that.
We love that. Awesome. Well, everyone, appreciate you tuning in. As always, the latest installment of MNCAA. Check back in next week for, I think we have 3 left. Yeah, we've done 3. That means we've got 3 left. So it's either going to be the Bulldogs, Gophers, or the Mavericks. We'll see.